everyone, welcome once again to Vicious Chats. Tim Vicious with me today. Co-host is from the Main Event Network, Paperclip Mike. And our guest this week, you may have seen him coming around. He was working on NXT, Level Up, also Evolve. Ladies and gentlemen, Javi, dude, it is so good to have you here.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so let me ask you first and foremost, the quote-unquote shackles came off some time ago. How's it feel to be an official free agent now?
It's scary and nerve-wracking, but it's also exciting. It's exciting to kind of have some semblance of control, so to speak, of what I do or what I, choose to do here with my wrestling career. It's nice to have the option to just kind of do whatever I want, so to speak,
That's awesome, man. So do you got like a proverbial bucket list? Like, man, I can't wait. I'm dying to want to try and get to here or work with this person or have that kind of match.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a bunch of names on my list. A bunch of places I want to go. First and foremost, I want to go all over the world, all over the country. And I want to wrestle everywhere and anywhere. I want to be busy. That's the biggest thing, I think about like Chris Jericho, who, he has, he's wrestler, and then he has Fozzy, and then he writes books, he's in movies or whatever. Like that's the appeal that I see. That's kind of the trajectory that I would like to be at. And as far as specifics, I've got a few names. Like I said, Nick Namath, Matt Cardona, Mustafa Ali. Though there's some of the bigger names going on right now. Effie is another one. I know I have some friends down at Reality of Wrestling in Texas I'd like to wrestle, like Danny Limelight and Will Allday. I've got a litany of names. So I could, this entire interview podcast could be just me listing off names of people I want to wrestle. But those are the ones that immediately come to mind. And as well as like where I'd like to wrestle, like I said, I want to be everywhere. I want to be anywhere. The cool part about this is that I could show up on AEW, TNA, MLW, NWA. Like I said, I've said in previous interviews past, it's a really lucky time to be a company right now and to have me kind of at their disposal, because I want to be an ambassador for any company that signs me. Any companies on the list, WWE included, I guess. But not that I'm a free agent technically, but right now I'm looking towards the future. I'm not looking towards, I'm not looking at the past. I'm looking to be an ambassador for whoever deserves to have me.
Well, fingers crossed, maybe we'll be lucky and you could be part of the Rick Rude Club and be on multiple shows in the same night.
Exactly.
Be on multiple, that would actually be pretty cool. I'm trying to think, other than Rick Rude, the only one that can come to mind that happened with was Tommaso Ciampa. He did an episode of TNA and he also appeared on an episode of NXT at the same time back in 17, I think that was.
That's crazy. I mean, it's weird because like after my release, I was technically uninvolved for the next 2 weeks after my release. So I'm like, I guess I could potentially be anywhere.
Which that was a bit of a shock. Like, so how does that work for you when like you get your release and then you're like, well, wait, guys, I'm still on these pre-recorded stuff that's set to come out within the next couple of days.
Well, I've mentioned in the past, I had I had a creative meeting set for the Monday after that I got released. Like obviously before all that. So like I assumed like, oh, this is good. We're gonna get things rolling or whatever. And I was told about, oh, we have plans for after this next thing. I'm like, okay, cool. And it was plans that were that made sense given the context of everything. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Cool. I'm excited to do that. And so, these Evolved shows are taped. So, every 2 or 3 weeks we would tape about 3 episodes. And so the last 2 episodes that I was on in particular, like I think that, they had plenty. If I'm not going to say that they knew about my particular release, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know. But if they did, I find it kind of odd because they could have just, it was recorded maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks prior. So they could have just, I mean, they have plenty of footage to just kind of, fill anything else in there. But it was interesting, but, in a weird way, it was nice because, there's this phrase in the business goes, you never go out on top. I ended my, my stint there as with the win, which, I mean, granted, I got jumped afterwards, but and it leaves a lot to be desired there. But I ended my stint with NXT there on a win, so I was like, I feel like I feel like on their part they probably could have just wrote it off. I mean, like they didn't have to because they put the vignette and then they put the match. I mean, I guess there's no reason to have it on there, but more footage for me, more clout or whatever you call it, more eyes on me. Like, oh, didn't he just get released? That's kind of weird. So I felt bad. I had a fan on my Twitter account. It's like, no, he's not released. He obviously he wrestled tonight. And I'm sorry, buddy.
Oh man, yeah, that's always, and it always does suck when you hear that somebody goes, but I always kind of look at it in a sense of kind of like what you said. You now got creative freedom. You got free reign. You can go out there and literally make anything happen now. You could go out there and make magic with anyone.
Exactly, and that's the cool thing. Like, there were so many popular names that get released, and so many talented individuals that get released, and some of them I think of and I'm like, wow, it doesn't make any sense to me why X person, Y person, Z person would get released. But and to their credit, whenever they get released, they'll go on and do some wonderful things with their career, whether they come back, whether they go to AEW, TNA, or whatever they do. And so I think about that in my perspective, like, obviously, this is, my livelihood. This is what I want to do. So it's just a matter of, I gave myself maybe an hour to cry. I saw a headline and it was like, Javier Bernal cried for an hour after release. I'm like, that's not what I said, but I guess if you want to run with that, I gave myself an hour to mourn, and then I got to work. Like, that was it. I mean, like, there's, so to me, I'm excited to see all the names that, that I thought, wow, how could they get released? I'm excited to wrestle those people because, like, I look up to them. I'm like, oh, well, they're doing great. They obviously know that they know their act. They know what they're doing. They know, they obviously didn't let, whatever bad thing happened to them affect them from moving forward. And I want to, I want to compete with them. That's what I feel.
Yeah. And like I said, best of luck on all of that. And I definitely see a lot of good things with you in the future. I brought up to my son a couple days ago, like, yeah, I'm supposed to be doing an interview with Javi today. He was like, wait, Big Body? He was like, yeah. He was like, oh, I remember him now. Yeah. And yeah, because he brought up, like, he saw you on Evolve. And did you ever see any of when back before Evolve got bought? And
yeah.
All right, so I was just wondering because I try and show my son whatever random wrestling I can, because I was always that weird kid growing up that watched whatever I could get my hands on. So I try to educate him in that same kind of way.
Yeah, no, I remember watching Evolve. One of my best friends, Joe Gacy, he was, someone there that was, obviously a major player there. Joe and like I remember watching, not just that, but like, the Ring of Honor from, like, back in the day, or MLW, even like back, kind of like their TNA, NWA kind of stuff. Like, I remember watching all that. And with regards to Evolve, I remember watching it, and a lot of people at the PC or at WWE, wherever, were a part of that. And I was like, okay, it's cool that it's a part of it, but it reminded me of a lot like when WWE bought Progress, or was it Progress? Was it ICW? All the UK promotions. So I was curious how the presentation was, because to me, like, Evolve, Ring of Honor, any of those, really indie wrestling, independent wrestling in general, is very punk rock. very off the cuff compared to a WWE. So I was curious, when I heard that I was going to get involved with that, what my involvement was going to be and how I would fit in there. And obviously, Big Body, I was like, that was a different iteration of my career. That was, like what I first started on NXT, versus to what I was trying to start to do towards the end of my career there.
Yeah. So when you made your vignette showing that you're getting ready to come back, obviously you're doing like a hardcore show, man. So I got to ask you, what are some of your go-tos for a hardcore?
Oh man, so I'm a big metalcore kid, so I love that's what my fans, I think I'm gonna make them call themselves. It was the Big Body Believers, now we're the core kids. But As I Lay Down is like, as you can see, As I Lay Down is like it's the big one for me. That's like one of my biggest ones. Obviously I like the obvious ones like Avenged Sevenfold back in the day, Bullet for My Valentine, Trivium. But then like some hardcore bands, kind of like Unearth. I saw them not too long ago. I'm trying to think, Parkway Drive, just all those deep cuts. I've always been drawn to metalcore, even like when I started getting into music, like heavy metal or whatever. Being a musician, like, I liked all types of music. So, I could listen to something as heavy as Cannibal Corpse and then, like listen to, I don't know, John Mellencamp, it's just like, it's wide ranges. Right. But, metalcore, I've always been drawn to. Yeah, and I've always been drawn to metalcore. Like even when I started getting into like heavy music, like that was like, like As I Lay Dying is my favorite band, and it's weird because like that brand from like the early 2000s to 2005, like that, and a little bit like all the little stuff in the 90s before, like the more hardcore punk stuff, to as well. So big range, and I'm sure if I could sit here and talk music with you all day about what bands I'd love to see, and what bands that I wish I would have seen. Obviously I like some of the new metal stuff too. Like it's all a blend, all a blend for me. But yeah, those are my hardcore bands.
I get that because again, my son, he's very much so. He's 15, coming into his own, and big thing I always try and do with him is when we go to clean up from dinner, I'll always tell him, what do you want on the radio? And then he'll just name a random band, and then I'll do, hey, Google, play so-and-so on whatever, on Pandora. Next thing you know, it's, okay, playing this band. And he'll be like, hey, what's this band? What kind of music do they do? Because now, like, his big thing is he is all sorts of in on Arch Enemy. And his jaw hit the floor when he saw the lead singer. Was like, wait, she is singing that? Like, yeah.
A buddy of mine he has a YouTube, and he's doing like the top female vocalist, and the Arch Enemy was like one of the first ones on there. I remember.
Got to be at least top 3.
I want to say she's top 5 for sure. And it's funny that you bring it up because you kind of give me Kill Switch Engage.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's another one of my favorite ones. You give me big Adam D like vibes here.
Well, thank you for that. Trust me, I'm gonna carry that. I'm gonna be riding on that high now with that compliment. So let me as far as a music question goes, let me ask you this, because Misfits are definitely in my top 3 favorite bands of all time.
Okay.
When and if do you ever think they're ever going to get in a Hall of Fame? Because it drives me up a wall every year when they announce the new inductees and they don't put them in.
There was a controversy recently with like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like they didn't put what was it, Kiss? I don't remember what band it was. But there was a band recently in the last like 5 years recently. There was a band that just kept getting snubbed. That's a bigger band. And it's weird.
It was Iron Maiden.
Oh, it might. If it was Iron, yeah, even more so. Iron Maiden, and I love them. And I definitely think that they should be in the Hall of Fame.
Definitely.
There's a lot of bands I think should be in there, but the Misfits. I don't know. I don't know that there's a lot of respect for bands like that in the Hall of Fame, and it's weird because I think of like they're on the punk side and all that, and
they were kind of that band that bridged that gap between metal and punk. And you got other bands that like Metallica that say point blank that they love them and they influence them with their music.
Oh, trust me. Yeah. I think they should be.
It's just like, hey, who do you think should go in? We're good. We can't think of anyone.
Well, like, like I think of a band like I don't know if they are in the Hall of Fame or not, but Green Day, like they're probably going to be sooner into the Hall of Fame than them. And I think one of the things of it is marketability. And unfortunately, like I hate that, but because it should be based off of if you're good at music and your influence and whatever. But it's big scary dude with white corpse paint on and the hair and gimmick, like. I don't know. It's one of those things where I think that if it does happen, or I think it will happen eventually, but when it does happen, it'll be a little too late. Like it won't be during a time where any of them could where anybody could really enjoy it. It's like, well, this should have been done like 10, 15 years ago,
Yeah, because my one buddy, he got like 3 different kinds of mad because when they announced this year's, and he looked over the list, and I'm not going to try and I'm not saying this in a negative way, but when he looked over the list and he was like, wait, the White Stripes are going in before the Misfits. And you could see the steam coming off of him on how mad he was. And it was just like, yeah, dude, trust me, I'm just as mad.
The White Stripes over. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think like the Hall of Fame and whatever. It's like I said. I think it was Jericho that like he was kind of campaigning for, and I thought
it was because it was Maiden because he was making the argument saying that Maiden to this day is still selling out stadium shows.
That's what it was.
Saying they're out there still doing stadium shows, selling them out, and they're not getting recognized. That's what it was.
Yeah. So it was Iron Maiden. Yeah, Iron Maiden, and that's what I'm saying. Like Iron Maiden, and again, like you said, there's no. It's not to be a negative thing, but there is a clear difference between Iron Maiden and the White Stripes. I would think, but
yeah, and they're Again, I don't know on how to describe it without making it sound like I'm trying to throw one under the bus, and I really don't want it to come off that kind of way. You know what I mean?
But if you look at the numbers, and then you look at the numbers, and you look at you can name plenty of songs by Iron Maiden. I can only name one song by the White Stripes, and again, it's a very influential song. Don't get me wrong, but if you look at the numbers, and I'm sure they would even agree to, like, yeah, I think they should. I think Iron Maiden should be in there too. I'm sure they would agree.
I give Iron Maiden credit because some of their stuff actually helped me pass some of my history classes in high school.
Yeah, I'm maybe showing my age a little bit, maybe like maybe a few years. Sabaton was it for me because they did all.
They did all. I just got my son into that one too.
And it was funny because like I don't listen to them super often now, but like when I was in middle school, high school, whatever, I listened to them. I'm like, oh, I've learned a lot about them. What was it? Iced Earth. I was reading and I went to a Catholic school in high school, and we read Dante's Inferno, which is I love it. So then Iced Earth has a song by Iced Earth has a song that's Dante's Inferno. It's the entire story and everything. And I did I want to say it was my junior thesis. Every year we had to write a statement or a thesis. And my thesis was how heavy metal and the medieval times period correlate and how they are how metal and the medieval time period is intertwined. And, one of my arguments was obviously Dante's Inferno, which was before the medieval period anyways. But a lot of it too is like, the Devil's Triad, Black Sabbath writing music to particularly like, there was this, triad in music. It's called the Devil's Triad that makes a minor dissonant sounding thing. And it was banned in the Catholic Church for quite a number of years, for 500 years or whatever, because it sounded evil. So of course, Black Sabbath, their music is, their music is like that, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, I get that. When I was I did 4 years in an all-boy Catholic high school also, so trust me. I understand that all too well. We had to do we did a talent show my senior year, and just because I wanted to annoy the teachers, I decided to dress up as a priest singing Van Halen's "Running with the Devil." I you know, I'm yeah, I'm lucky I didn't get any detention for that. They did not see my wardrobe until they pulled the curtain open.
I know, like, one of the things, because, you know, I'm a big metalcore guy. I'm a big Avenged Sevenfold. I actually got to saw them. It was Bullet for My Valentine, Breaking Benjamin, and Avenged Sevenfold 2018. We drove 6 hours one way to go.
Wow.
And yeah, well, because that's been my favorite band since City of Evil. Well, City of Evil. City of Evil was one that got me hooked. Like, my favorite song of theirs is actually Dancing Dead, so I know I'll never hear it in a concert.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah, that's my favorite song of theirs. It's like a deep, like, it's on the LBC album, and it's like they don't play it, but it's like my favorite one. I had it was Headbangers Ball Volume 2 on CD. It was like a 2 CD set. This is how I got on Avenged Sevenfold.
Whoa.
Yeah, like the only song that I knew at the time. Yeah, there was the Volume 2.
Yeah, we're showing our age here. Folks.
Yeah, like if the gray hair didn't show it enough.
It's a little before my time. I was maybe like 5 or 6 for Headbangers Ball.
Well, I would be able to say you could see the gray there, but now you just can only catch it right here on the face.
Salt and pepper.
But yeah, the only reason and it was a 2 CD set. The only reason I bought it was there was a song from Black Label Society. Don't even remember what song it was. But the only bands I knew of at the time was that I still remember, like the name of the bands, like it's 2 CDs. It was like 30 some odd songs. Was Black Label Society, Avenged Sevenfold, and Dillinger Escape Plan.
Oh wow!
Oh,
I don't remember the song, but that's just I remember that band specifically for whatever reason was on there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'm listening. I was in the Army when I got hooked on Avenged Sevenfold, and my buddy showed me a video, and he's like, "Dude, watch this." And it was, and I had already listened to the Headbangers Ball a bunch of times because I listen to that kind of music. He showed me the video for Unholy Confessions, the whole just a concert video. It's all it was, and I'm like, wait a minute, that song sounds familiar. So I go back and I look because I had already downloaded it on my iTunes I had at the time. Unholy Confessions was the song I had on Headbangers Ball Volume 2. So that's why this song sounds familiar. I had already had this, like, oh, okay, let me look at their other stuff. And now it's like I'm trying to get now, and I have a buddy of mine that has a record store here. There's actually 2 record stores in my small town. I live in like a town of like 17,000 people. We have 2 record stores, and they're literally around the corner from each other. He's trying to get me a copy, and it's not cheap. But I used to have it, and I'm an idiot. I got rid of it. He's trying to get me a copy of Sounding the Seventh Trumpet.
Ooh, that would be one.
That is a hard one to get. He's like, he's been trying to get it for me for like 2 years, and he's like, you're spending at minimum $50, and he's like, he's not trying to find me any copy. He wants to find me a decent copy of it on CD. That is a hard one to find because that was their first one.
That's their first one, and that was so it was obviously the lead singer and M Shadows and Sinister Gates and the Rev. Mm-hmm. I don't think Johnny Christ or Zaki was in the band.
I think they were still in high school when they released that. I think
they were. Yeah. So
I gotta try. I'm gonna see if I can try and look this up.
And then even what made the concert even cooler. One, I was with my best friend. We were like nosebleeds, but it was just one of my all-time favorite bands. Actually, it's Kiss. Or I'm a big Queen fan. A huge Queen fan. Like "Show Must Go On" is my favorite song of theirs.
Okay, all right.
One of the last songs Freddie Mercury ever did too, and he did that. The story behind how he did that song, he sung that song because he was like super sick at the time. Like this was like towards the end of his life.
Oh, was it? Okay.
And they're like, you don't have to do this. He took a swig of vodka. He's like, man, basically, he's like, let's do this. He did it in like one take. He was basically holding himself up on a stool, and he did that song like basically one take.
Damn,
that's crazy.
And then I'm a huge Kiss fan. That was my favorite band in high school. Was Kiss.
I've seen them live. It was funny. I saw them in Minneapolis. David Lee Roth opened up for them. I actually went for David Lee Roth. I didn't go for Kiss, and not the Kiss. David Lee Roth. Like I love Van Halen. That was what I went with, and my buddies went for Kiss. and they put a phenomenal performance on. It's maybe an hour too long for me, and maybe just because I'm a homebody, but like I was sitting there, it's like 3 hours. I'm like, all right, let's play rock and roll all night. Let's get home, you know.
Well, that's just like I went to go see. You were talking about Metallica and the Misfits. I got to see Metallica in 2009 in Cleveland. It was Gojira, Lamb of God, and Metallica.
Oh,
wow!
And we were this was like when Death Magnetic was out, so it was their world tour.
Okay.
And we were so high up that like the seats were slanted. We were at the Gund Arena in
Oh,
Cleveland.
I know that arena.
We were so high up, the seats were actually tilted. I'm sitting like this because, and so Gojira, Lamb of God, they were great, but Metallica set was about 2.5 hours. And they played a couple. They played The Day That Never Comes, and I think it was one other song off the album. And then it literally was nothing later than Black Album.
Really? Okay, so they're playing all the classics on.
And then and the way they set it up was like they were just on a stage in the middle of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And about every half hour, Lars's drum kit would turn 90 degrees so everybody could get a good view of the drum kit. It was like I said, there was like coffins up top of the thing, but it was just a stage in the middle. And then, Enter Sandman was the last song, fireworks, flames, and everything. And then when they turned the lights on, they were like, hey, we're doing something different for every show on the tour. We're playing songs from bands that we grew up liking and were big influences. So Metallica actually started playing some Misfits.
Oh, okay.
Like, I don't know what songs they were because I'm a very, very, very casual Misfits fan. I can't even name one song. I'll listen to them, but I can't, I don't. But they actually played some Misfits, so I could watch Metallica play Misfits.
That's cool. So I see Metallica maybe 8 years after that. So it was in 2018, I want to say. I saw Metallica and they were great. They played all the classics and all that. They were in Minneapolis, which is where Prince is from. So they did When Doves Cry. And I think at that point it was really interesting because it didn't sound like Prince, but it was a cool rendition. I've just never heard the way it was, because it was just I think it was just literally Kirk Hammett and Robert Trujillo. I think I was literally just those two. I don't think James or Lars were out there. Yeah, no, I'm not even joking. It was I don't know, and it went viral at the time. I think I want to say Rob was the one that was singing it. But I'm not positive. You'll have to check me on that, but I'm pretty sure it was Rob that was singing it.
Yeah, and then I'm sure we could talk metal and metalcore all day. Like I said, I just saw Halocene and Icon for Hire last year. Like I became a big Icon for Hire last year.
Music all day. I'm a huge. I say all the time, I'm a huge inner city punk rock kid. I grew up in South Philly, so I grew up in South Philly, and I'm a huge punk rock kid. I grew up. I don't have one favorite all-time band. I got it depending on my mood and the day of the week. I got one of three: Misfits, Ramones, or Rancid.
Okay, yeah. So you're more of that punk scene.
Yeah, I was the punk kid. That's kind of where the whole Tim Vicious name came from, because that was my backyard wrestling name, where it was me and this one dude, Tommy. We were tag team, and we're like, all right, we're gonna be these punk rock kids, and we're going to be like the bastard sons of Sid and Johnny. And we called ourselves the Pistols.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love those bands that you listed. I'm trying to remember some of the punk bands that I like. I'm a big NoFX guy.
Oh God.
I love
Did
NoFX.
you see their last show? Did you watch it?
I didn't. I
believe that they were streaming it. They were streaming it. I know their last show ever was some point in 24, because I remember
I heard about it.
Spent that whole day just listening to all sorts of random NoFX songs. And my son was like, "Dad, are you okay?" "I'm not crying. You're crying."
I will say Avenged Sevenfold is what got me into NoFX, because they're a big NoFX fan, and they did a cover of Linoleum.
Oh God, yeah.
So that's how I got it. That's how I learned about NoFX. Was maybe I'm showing my age a little bit, because it was like 2012 or whenever I was listening to them. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I've never heard that song before, and so I looked it up. I'm like, oh, this is great.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
dude, it's all good, man. Because I remember I was 18 or like around 17 or 18. My mom's best friend. I took her daughter, who I always considered like my little niece. I took her to the Warp Tour. So I'm showing my age here. I took her to the Warp Tour, and she wanted to go see the one band, the Ataris that were there. So I
Oh, I
had
know
her
them. Yeah,
up on my shoulders seeing that, and she's watching it, having a killer time. And these dudes are walking past me and they're like, "Hey man, you want to hit?" And they're holding out a joint. I'm like, "Dude, seriously? I got a kid with me." I'm like, "Oh, I want to come back later?" Seriously?
Yeah.
Ask me later.
Like,
Yes.
like
Wait till
I mean,
she's
that's the
going.
only kind of stuff
Give me
you
an
can only
hour.
get something like that at the Warp Tour. I got other stories I could tell, but that's
Oh, it's
you know,
funny because I look like a huge stoner. I'm a straight edge. That's the funny. I feel like that's my lot in life. Everybody asking me, "Hey man, you got a lighter?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." I like it. I could be in Walmart. I could be in Publix. I could be at the beach. Odds are someone's gonna ask me that question, and like it doesn't bother me, but it's just funny because like people like I felt so bad. So I don't know if you guys had seen it, but I did a vignette for my kind of intro to the indies where I kind of introduced my new song. I'm on stage, and one of the kids that was there, he's like, "Hey man," like, and I could tell he was like nervous to ask me and everything. He's like, "You want to smoke a joint?" I'm like, I felt so bad. I felt like I really, really appreciate that, man. I'm straight edge. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, I am so like they were so apologetic." I'm like, no, it's okay. And I felt bad, like, man, shoot, maybe I need to go smoke with him or something because I feel bad. But like, yeah, it's funny because like people assume that I'm, a huge partier. My house is like kind of like me and my wife. We stay here. We just got a dog. We have a cat. So like that's our little family. Right now. And that's what I I go to concerts. After the day after I shot my music video. I was on stage with Necro Goblicon the next night. So I do things, but I'm really not all that interesting after like I just go home. That's what I do. I wrestle and then I go home,
So are you looking to like maybe see if you can try and take the for lack of a better term, the proverbial Chris Jericho route where wrestle Monday, concert Tuesday, workout Wednesday, rinse and repeat sort of style?
Would love to. And I think you guys might know or might have passed by my stream or whatever. Like that's another kind of avenue. Yeah. I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure. My stream is another avenue where I do that sort of thing. Like it's like a TV show or whatever segment I do on my stream. Then I wrestle the next day and then I have a concert. And, like I like to get a group together and form a metalcore band. That's on the line. But for now, like piece by piece, I've got to kind of focus on things segmentally here. But that's kind of, you're right. That's exactly right. It's the kind of the route I'd like to go. He's always busy, always doing something, and I find that in Orlando, but in overall, like the metalcore community is such a cluster, so tight. I like the attitude of like, if you're in the pit, if you fall down, you pick them back up. That's very much what exactly the rules of it.
I've been in the pit I've broken 2 pairs of glasses in the pit.
I feel bad because
there's unwritten rules to the pit. Like there's anybody that's been in the pit knows the rules. It's like you pick everybody up, and then it's like you don't, like, if they leave, you make sure they leave.
Yeah, like, you make sure they leave how they came in.
And it's just like you watch out. Yeah, you're gonna get hit. It's just like I said, I've broken 2 pairs of glasses in mosh pits before, and it's honestly the safest place you can be in a concert is in the pit.
It's so funny. Definitely. It's so funny. I was at a Black Dahlia Murder concert, and this happened a couple of years ago. And I wasn't in the pit, but I was on the edge, and I was just trying to watch I love Black Dahlia Murder. I was trying to. This is a one night. I don't do anything to get myself in trouble, but I thought I was going to get arrested this night because there's one dude who just like eyeballed me across the pit, and I wasn't in the pit. I was just watching, and he ran into me, and he was like quite literally half my height, half my size. And I think I grabbed him by his like under his armpits and just shoved him back. And like it was like an anime where he was just like rolling backwards and skidding across the ground. And I'm like,
God.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh no. And then he comes back to me, he's like, dude, and like I have this older gentleman like looking like the pit piper just looking at me like this. I'm like, did you not just see what happened? But then like he comes back to me, he's like, dude, that was and I was going to him like, I'm sorry, man. I really didn't want to do that to you. I'm sorry. And he's like, dude, that was awesome. I'm like, oh, okay, great, man.
He wants to do it. He's like, Uppies, do it again.
I was like, oh
I
yeah,
said,
Uppy, yeah,
can I
Uppies,
tell you a
again.
story about on how somebody was disrespectful at the pit the one time a show I went to? So me, my brother, and my sister, I took them to go see Disturbed for their Music as a Weapon tour a couple years back. It was Disturbed, Lacuna Coil, and Kill Switch.
Yeah.
And Disturbed was on. And this guy, he was like trying to do a body surf thing, got all the way up to the front and was working his way back through the pit. He went to go climb back over the guardrail, grabbed my sister's hair, and then pulled over. You could hear my sister screaming. Me and my brother, we just turn our head and we see that. We yank the dude, throw him over, and then everyone's just on us like, what are you doing? We just look like, that mother just grabbed our sister's head. And everyone was just like, you two go take care of her and enjoy the show. We never saw the dude for the rest of the night. It was like
a mafia.
Like monsters just dragging back into the shadows. like, yeah, your soul's ours.
The craziest thing I ever saw is I got to go to, it was Red, Seether, Breaking Benjamin, and 3 Days Grace.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was during the 1X 3 Days Grace. So this is like peak, highest,
their
3 Days
time.
Grace. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
and we were front row.
At his best.
Yeah, like 1X, and I'm a big Breaking Benjamin fan too, and it's Seether. Like I said, this is an amazing concert. We're front row. Like I'm grabbing the security rail, like we're in front of the mosh pit, and we're watching people crowd surf, and they're crowd surfing people, and they're how the security scene is, so they're grabbing the people are crowd surfing to the stage, they're grabbing them, putting them back in the crowd. This girl, they're crowd surfing her. And her feet are towards the stage. And I swear to everything that is holy, I saw this happen. As they get close, the people that are like up her upper half of her go like this. And she goes up like this over the security rail and lands face first on the concrete.
Oh,
I would swear on a polygraph test that they just did that to her. And she just went up all the way over, cleared everything, and just on the concrete.
Dude.
Oh
yeah.
God, on the concrete.
She missed. She didn't tumble onto somebody first and land. She didn't hit the barrier. She just went up over concrete from probably about 6-7 feet, because you're crowd surfing. You're about 6-7 feet. Yeah.
If there's one thing I could ban about concerts, if there's one thing, it would be crowd surfing. I know it's an unpopular opinion. I went to a festival as a freshman in college, and I was at the front. It was Event Sevenfold. It was like the headliner for the night, and I was at the front, and I couldn't enjoy much of it for a variety of reasons. But that was like one of the reasons, because they just kept sending people. And they just keep dropping the people on your heads. And if there was one thing that I could ban, I don't mind the mosh pits. Obviously, I like the mosh pits. I don't mind the wall of death or hardcore dancing or whatever. But I would ban crowd surfing. It doesn't just happen at heavy concert; it happens at every concert, and I hate it. I don't like it.
It's almost like if you crowd surf, like if you're in a pit, you're on the wall of death, you're whatever. You choose to be a part of that.
Yes.
If you're not, if you're crowd surfing, you have no choice, or they're just gonna. You have to keep them going. You don't have an option to help crowd surf.
It's so funny. It's like it's a tiny thing that I do. Because obviously, also I'm being a wrestler, like it's my livelihood. Like if someone's like, "Hey, can you pick me up?" I'm not like oh, you talking to me? I'm just not not paying attention. If I pick them up, you can pick them up. Cause I don't know. It's, for me, that's where I'm like, I don't like crowd surfing.
I've always been like, nah, man. Listen, I can't. My back has just started getting better from the other day, from work.
I just lifted heavy today. I can't it's a heavy lift day.
And that's the thing, people can pick you out in a crowd usually if you're a wrestler, and they're like, hey, you look strong. You want to help me? Like, oh no, I don't.
But and I did want to touch. There was one like I said, you have a Twitch channel, and I've been in there a couple times, and one of the and this actually I remember this actually went viral for a little bit. You were talking. I think it was like one of the first streams you did after you got released. We were talking about because I guess obviously we can talk about metal all day long. You said, yeah, like we have been, like we're talking about metal in all its various forms. You said, and you actually, this got trending a little bit. This got posted by different wrestling news sites. You're a Sabrina Carpenter fan.
I am.
I was in the stream that night. You were talking about. I mean, I have the skin. I got the pass. I got the skin. But you mentioned and you asked people if they could start posting it. I think was it Fightful picked it up?
It was Fightful picked it up. Yeah. Sean Ross.
Then it said Javier Bernal says he is a Sabrina Carpenter fan.
I don't see how that's a big shock. I mean, what's it? And Mike, you'll know who I'm talking about, but a mutual buddy of ours, Great Brown Hope. He's a big Lady Gaga guy. He got me started hooked on her.
You know,
I'm also a Warhammer nerd. I also started getting into Warhammer, and I'm a huge Warhammer nerd. And I don't know how, but I wound up finding somebody actually did a thing where they had a Space Marine from Warhammer singing Bad Romance from Lady Gaga.
Oh my gosh. I know. So Hailstorm did a cover of that song.
Hailstorm. I'm a big Hailstorm guy.
Me too. Lizzie Hale. Me and Joe have had this discussion. I think Lizzie Hale is like a modern day Joanne Jett, and he's like, no, Joanne Jett's better. This thing. He doesn't agree with me.
He's a modern day Joan Jett.
That's what I
trust me. I don't think you're gonna find a bigger Joan Jett fan out there than me. I mean, I used to do a thing back in the day where it was like, on Sundays we celebrate Joan Jett, and I would make a hashtag Joan Jett Sunday.
That's so funny. But yeah, no, like it's funny. I love, I'm being a wrestler or whatever. Be like the other side of me, like being a musician. Like my dad was a musician for 40 years. I was born on the road. Like I was born where I don't have family. Like I'm like I'm being on the road, music, all that stuff. Like I'm used to that. And obviously, like I love the heavier stuff, and that's more what I'm comfortable with, and that's more me. But like being around different kind of music, my dad, would tell me, he's like, like I'd play all kinds of music, like country. Like I wasn't necessarily. He was saying, it's like I'm not necessarily a fan of it, but it paid me the best, and it made me learn more about different types of music and different techniques. And so like, oh, it's cool, and I'm like listening to all kinds of music growing up, anything from the Beatles, who I'm not really a big fan of, to White Snake, like at the time that's the heaviest thing that I heard, so like everything in between, and then Sabrina Carpenter and Dua Lipa. Dua Lipa has like an 80s, like it's called like a retro. I forget what it's called, what the album's called. It's like a retro something album, but it's like those two particular artists and the songs that I'm thinking of remind me a lot of like late 80s, early 90s music. And it's a nice throwback, and I don't know, they just write very good, catchy like music. And like to me, I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, this new music is bad or whatever. But like if I'm taking music from like today's scene or today's music, and like pop music, I should say, those two stand out to me the most, because it just feels so different. And I'm finding that Sean Ross Sapp, like me and him have like a lot of interest. Like I've never really interacted much with him while I was in WWE, and then after WWE, and he's very, very kind, very sweet. I'm finding that we're having a lot of similar interests. Like obviously brought up the Sabrina Carpenter thing, and then the other day I found out he was a King of the Hill fan, which it's one of my favorite shows. But yeah, it was funny that like somebody's like, yeah, nothing ever goes viral. I'll give you an example. Like the other day I had an interview, and someone's the title said, or what did it say? It was this. It was I'm open to like a WWE return, right? Like if WWE were to call me, right? Which like ask any wrestler ever that ever has gotten released, 99% of them will say I'm open to it. They're not gonna talk smack. Like in my interviews, I've been very cordial. Yeah, I'm not gonna bury anybody, and that's not for one, regardless of whether I got fired or not. That's just not who I am, anyways. but two, like I'm not gonna, you don't close the door behind you, right? So then, like, like, of course, the article was posted, and the article wasn't sensationalized, but then people take it as, oh my gosh, he's begging for a job, or he of course, unemployed person that just got fired is obviously going to ask for a job. Like that's not at all what I said, right? And then when I said that on stream, like, why doesn't something like, I like Sabrina Carpenter ever go viral? Like, why can't stuff like that go viral?
Yeah, because there's been a handful of people that have been let go. I mean, most notably Matt Cardona, who is having the run of his life on the independents. He's openly said, no, if they call me and say, hey, would you want to come back? All we got to do is just talk numbers and talk days, and then, yeah, I'll go.
I think
he said that openly, and yet that's just treated like it's nothing out the ordinary.
I think wrestling fans, I love wrestling fans because they pay my bills and all that. And then, they're good. I'm a wrestling fan at heart. I just don't think that they understand. I think a lot of wrestling fans, and it's on the internet, I won't say in person because Twitter is not real life, and I have to remember that, and a lot of people have to remember that. Twitter wrestling fans are like the worst people imaginable because they think, oh, why would you ever decide you'd want to go back and be employed by blah, blah, blah? Well, I mean, just like you, buddy, I've got bills to pay too, and this is just how I try to pay my bills, right? If I have a degree in dentistry and there's a big company, like I want to be a dentist for, I don't know, if I want to be a dentist for the Miami Dolphins, like, and they let me go, of course I'm going to want to go back. That's what I want to do. Like, there's nothing to do with that. And I'm not saying whether I want to come back or don't want to come back or whatever. I'm just saying I'm open to it. Right now, I just want to be everywhere. I want to, sure, I would love it if AEW or TNA or MLW or NWA or New Japan, Ring of Honor, whatever. I'd be happy to talk to whoever if they call me. That's obviously that they're, and I think that wrestling fans like take that and be like, oh, he's begging for a job or he's desperate. It's not desperate. That's just anybody that has any aspirations of doing anything wants to go and wrestle somewhere. I think that's silly for people to, to hyper sensationalize. And here's the thing, I get it. This is what I get too, is that certain people can say it and not get talked about, and certain people can. Like, I'm someone that a couple weeks before I got released, I posted a picture on Twitter, and I got massive heat. But then I got, for every hate comment I got 4,000 likes on the post, right? But I posted a picture about, someone says, why don't our wrestlers look like this anymore? And it was a picture of Jeff Hardy, CM Punk, like when he was in ECW, like very punk, very alternative looking men. And I said, and I just posted a picture of me, like a picture of me wrestling or whatever. It's like, it's because you guys are dicks, basically. I didn't say it like that, but it's basically that's like, you guys bully anybody that tries to be different. You guys pick on everybody. And I got called very many racist and homophobic things. It was really weird. I was like, what do politics have to do with this? I just dressed with a mesh shirt, but
yeah,
but like
people like that are just are like screaming for attention.
Absolutely. But and here's the thing, like, I bet you if somebody else posted that, it might not have gotten as much hate. And I don't know why I do. And maybe it's because I don't know why. I'm not trying to say poor me, but I feel like a lot of times, like when I post something and it's just like immediate negativity. I'm like, well, I'm just a dude living my life trying to be a wrestler. I'm trying to, and again, for every hate comment I get, I have tens and hundreds of people that are my fans and supporting me and love the mission and the mission statement that I have. But it's just like one of those things where I'm like, I guess I don't know. I guess I don't know what, if I say I want to go back to WWE, I'm bad. If I say I don't want to go back to WWE, I'm bad. If I say anything, I'm bad. So it's one of those things where it's like, you brought up Matt Cardona, and that's what I think of too. I'm like, I'm sure he gets plenty of that and he seems to be plenty happy. So I'm in good company.
Yeah, like he said, like, and you were talking about this earlier, you're like, you want to be everywhere. Doesn't matter where you want to go, you want to be out there. And he legit just said in his last interview, he's like, because Chris Van Vliet was interviewing him, I think that's like the third or fourth time he's been on his show. He's like, you'll go anywhere. He's like, yeah, as long as they meet my rate, and I had the day open, I'll go anywhere. Yeah, he's like, I have a paper calendar. If I have the day open and you pay, because he even said like he'll go to a show, they'll pay him, but then he will, and he said he's done this many times, he'll make more money on the merch table than his rate.
Yeah, and that's something that's very common, especially like you know, in on the indies, especially if you coming from WWE, or if you're someone that is popular on the indies. That's something that's very common. And I've had the chance to talk to Matt Cardone, and something he's always said, and something that he's been very consistent about. Obviously, is the grind a part of it, but like he's very, very good at the social media aspect. Very, this is just as much an investment as anything else. Like my stream, for example, part of my stream, like, yeah, it's cool for me to like get away and play video games and do that, but also part of it is too, is like, a lot of my fans want to get to know my life outside of wrestling, or want to get to know me, or want to spend more time with me. And so, I started out my stream a year and a half, 2 years ago. And, I've had to invest in things, and it's an investment. And as far as wrestling goes, I have to go to the gym. I have to go to the ring and get better at the ring. I have to, I have to drop a little money to make sure that, like I look professional or whatever, and it's all very much an investment in yourself. And he's very consistent about that. Obviously there are things outside of that. Excuse me. Sorry. Thank you. Donkey. There are things outside of that obviously you can or cannot control, but the most consistent part that you can control is your effort and your investment in the business.
Yeah, because you can control your looks, you can control your outfit, and you can also control where you want to work. So, you want to make yourself go and look like, like you're jacked to the gills, then, by God, you can. You want to go and make yourself look like you got the best damn outfit on the show, by all means, you can. You want to go and work in Hoboken and then in Pittsburgh back to back, then yeah, you definitely can. That's exactly all you, man. And nothing but utmost respect on that part, because most people, they're just like, well, maybe I can ride off this WWE name and make a couple bucks, and some people are just gonna be like, nah, you know what, hold my beer, watch us. You're definitely doing the hold my beer and watch this bet.
I mean, to be honest, I have no other choice. Like the whole WWE thing can get you so far, for sure. And the big body Javi stuff was really fun, and it was fun because it was outside of myself. But now I think that this, and obviously I was trying to get it on Evolve. So, like I said, I mentioned before, I had the music thing, the music video that I did this last week or whenever it was. I wrote that song while I was out on injury. Me and a buddy from a local band down here called The High Ground. His name's Matt Brown. He helped me with the song, and me and him just wrote the song. And I had every intention for I didn't care about making money off it. It was like WWE. I just want it to be heard. I want it to be everywhere. I want this the theme. This is the vibe that I'm going with. This is what I want to do when I get back. And it's not a bad thing. It's just legal problems in between or whatever. So I'm glad that I kept it and owned it. And I'm, it's one of those things where like I did this music video and I gave them obviously the first open listen to him. Like, I want you guys to learn the lyrics or whatever. And they learned the lyrics and they knew every word. And it was powerful hearing people singing together and stuff like that. And, I could ride off of the Big Body Javi stuff that people knew me from, or I could do something that I think is unique to me, different to me. Like there were, when I was in WWE, like as far as alternative males, like Malachi was one, and Judgment Day would be the closest thing, but they just wore black. I don't think it was necessarily that they were alternative. They just wore black, Damian Priest, he listens to Slayer. So I mean, I guess that's a little different, but, as far as men go, like, and especially in NXT, there weren't any alternative men. There weren't any metalcore, punk, heavy metal. There weren't any of those types of dudes. It was just,
wasn't really anyone from like that kind of niche crowd that we could that kids like us would just be like, yeah, I relate to him.
Exactly. And that's where, I got the idea from doing that, because I'd go to these concerts with my wife, and there was always a running joke between the two. She's like, I think they recognize you more than they recognize me. And it's like, well, I mean, I'm just a goofball that people want to talk to. So, but like, they're like, Javi, I didn't know you listen to this type of music. Like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, okay, well, these are my people. Maybe it's just time for me to represent my people. And of course, getting her at the time, and, you guys knowing what metalcore is, like, the lyrics are very emotional, very sappy, very, introspective. And I think that was, when I was doing the Evolve thing, I was Big Body Javi for a few weeks, but it was like, people like me, but this isn't who I am. And it was, in my mind, I was viewing it in the light of like a recovering addict or a born again Christian. Like, we all have some sort of past, even if it's just embarrassing, didn't have to be anything serious. We all have some sort of past that we like, this is who I am now. This is what I want to represent now. And that was such a powerful story to me that I wanted to keep going. And unfortunately, like, it kind of ended on a weird flat note, but it was one of those things where I'm like, it was really cool. It was really powerful. And, it's the story that I'd like to continue to tell, because there are many people like me or like us that, that don't see ourselves represented. And that was the other thing. Anything I did in the WWE, I was the first to do. I was the first Colombian American WWE superstar. I was the first on TV. I was the first on anything that I did. I was the first. I was the first to represent Colombia in that way. And so, there's so many layers to me, even as much as I like am nonchalant and about it, like me being boring or whatever, like there's a lot of layers to me. And I think, for me, at essence, it's about people. And, it doesn't even have to be people that, like metalcore, but people that are bullied, like people that are left out, people that have, that are fear of missing out, people that just don't fit in. Like, I want those people to come to me. I want those people like, oh man, I relate to that guy. There's something about him that I just feel like he stands up for me. And that's always been my mindset throughout my life. Not wrestling, but just life. And I just want that to carry. It's more me, more of myself.
Yeah. And it's just like, and I'm a big horror movie fan too. Like, I love horror movies, like especially Tubi. I watched not just for Evolve, but like I watched Tubi religiously because crap little horror movies. I always said, being, listening to metal, being horror movies, and I've gone to horror convention and everything. I always said, and it's basically proven, the most welcoming groups of people I've ever been around are metalheads and horror movie fans.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
A couple years ago, I go to I like going to Cinema Wasteland. It's like it's a convention outside Cleveland. They do it twice a year. It's very like grindhousey exploitation style, like 42nd Street, some like my kind of movies. We took me and my best friend. We took his oldest daughter a couple years ago. To the convention. It was our first ever convention, first horror movie convention, first ever convention. She's a big horror fan. And ironic, because she was actually also wearing an Acclaim shirt. So we had people were giving her like the giving her the scissors and everything. Nobody knew who she was, but they're like, oh, okay, cool. You're one of us now. And then once they realized not only was it her first convention and her first horror movie convention, they were like, you're one of us now. You're with us. You're one of us. And they was a lady selling books there. And she got to talk to her, and it's like, yeah, they were like, I was reading stuff about horror movie books, and she's like, I don't care here. And, like, she was, you go to, when you're around a bunch of people that are used to not being felt welcome, those are the first people that are going to welcome you.
Exactly. 100%. 100%. And that was, it was weird because, like, even as a kid, like, I just always felt compelled to that. I don't know. It's weird. I always felt compelled. And I was never a kid that was like, like I was never like a loser or anything like that. I was just, I was just a kid, but I always felt like, maybe I just want to have people relate to me in that way. Like there's, better, there's better things than just feeling popular or whatever. And like a lot of the lyrics that contain from metalcore like are very much about mental health. That's another thing, and that's something that I would love to take on my shoulders. And if people like I said, I had a guy when we did the the music video, he came up to me and was like, man, this night kind of like cured my anxiety, and it made me feel really, really good. And another girl, another person, they handed me a drawing of me, and I could tell they were nervous and all that, and I saw it. It almost made me cry. And they were like, they'd driven, I guess they were on vacation or whatever, so they weren't even they didn't even live here, but they wanted to make sure to be part of this music video. And to me, it's crazy. They're like, I don't know, some of the people here that were there didn't know about metalcore, didn't know what to do. Like there was a good amount that knew, go mosh pit, circle, whatever, but like a lot of them didn't. I'm like, it's okay if you don't know what to do. The point of this is that you're here and that you feel welcome and you feel accepted. That's the whole point of it. It's, you could dance. I don't care what you do. That being at a concert like this, it means you could do anything that you want as long as you feel comfortable, you feel accepted, and you feel safe. These concerts are supposed to be like this type. That what I'm doing is I want to be a safe space for anybody that feels like they are not, they're not part of the status quo, or that they're not, like they're for any reason, and it's very DIY, and it made me feel good that a lot of people came out and did this. And like you said, the communities, the communities that are the most welcoming are the ones that are the darkest or whatever, like the ones that you wouldn't think are the most welcoming.
Yeah, and that's on how it was with me with the punk scene when I was a kid, because I picked up punk rock when I was a little kid, and then when I was a teenager, it was all the punk kids. They were like the ones that everyone always looked at, and for lack of a better term, we all looked like we were just one bad day away from being a Columbine kid. That's on how we got labeled. Like we got told, no, they look like they're going to be Columbine kids. So that's on how, and we just kind of like, yeah, well, that's on how they say us. But, we just were like, yeah, you know what? Nah, come on over. Here. You want a soda?
Yeah, that's just like one of the, like when I was in high school, like I said, I still live in it's a very small town. Well, ish. Like one of the nicest kids in the school, and like everybody liked him. He was a cool kid. He was friendly to everybody. Our senior year homecoming, he had the Liberty Spikes. He had plaid pants, and he wore a Rancid t-shirt. Everybody else is in their suits and dresses and everything. He came up in plaid pants, a Rancid t-shirt, and Liberty Spikes. Honestly, the nicest dude in the world.
Honestly,
like everybody loved that dude.
Those are the ones that are always the nicest. The ones that just, like I said, I wasn't like a kid that was particularly disliked or I felt like I was popular enough because I hung out with everybody. Like hanging out is probably not the best word, but I would be nice to everybody, I played football, so I was on the football team. So as far as that goes, those guys are obviously going to like me, but at the same time, like, the nerds or the geeks or whatever, like I was very nice to them, like there's nothing, and it was the same way in college. I went to McAllister College in St. Paul, and I was a football player there, and you think, oh, you're probably a frat guy. No, like my team would have parties every Friday night or Saturday night after games, and I would never be there. I would, but like all the nerds or all the, the theater kids or whatever, the punks, whatever, they all knew who I was, and they were very nice to me, and they knew that I was a safe space for them, so it's like one of those things where I'm like, I relate to that, and I want people to relate to. I want people to feel comfortable. And hell, if you are a frat guy, but you're like, yeah, I still vibe with it. Come on in too. Like that's what this is about. I don't care who you are. It's all about being. It's all about not feeling the need to fit in. That's the thing. You could fit in or you don't fit in, but you don't need to when you're around me. And that's that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and that's the main message I try and teach my son, because he's going to be 16 when he starts school in September, and sophomore year of high school, and we all know how rough high school was.
Sure.
I tell him all the time, listen, don't worry about the people that don't like you. Just focus on what works for you. The people that like you are going to like you no matter what. So if they don't, screw them. They ain't worth being around. Don't matter if they don't like you because of the shoes you have on, because you listen to this song or you wear this shirt or whatever, they ain't worth the time of day. Those guys ain't worth the time of day being around.
It's the same. It's the same with wrestling. Like the people that don't like me aren't gonna like me, and that's okay. Like
Yeah.
I always say it this way. Mike Tyson always said it best. The internet's made it comfortable to just talk as much as you want without the consequences of getting punched in the face. Like nobody, and not that I ever would, because I'm not one of those types of guys. But not that I ever would, but I would bet that very few of these people would say it to my face in the context of a normal life, and that's all wrestling fans for anybody. So that's one thing you have to. That's one thing that I've always had to think about. I was like, I realize that people aren't gonna necessarily vibe with everything that I do. They're not gonna even, they're going to be hateful. Even, it's one thing if you don't like what I do, that's fine. I don't care. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But if they're hateful, it's like one of those things. They're like, man, I mean, I must have made quite the impression to get under your skin that much to feel some type of way, which is good as far as a wrestler is concerned. I want to make you feel something, and if that's what you feel about me, and great, I guess more power to you. So it's very much the same with wrestling. The people that aren't going to like me, I don't need to convince. I'm a good person. I'm a good wrestler. I'm good at speaking. If you don't like me, that's on you. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it. It's.
I mean, obviously you're good. You're good, because otherwise, why would one of the biggest wrestling companies in the world why would they have signed you, right?
Why would they have kept me for 4 years? That's
exactly.
The thing. I always mention it too. Like everyone on the internet is like, oh, they weren't good enough, or they weren't doing this. Like sometimes, let me look at the names that they released. Arguably the biggest stars like Punk and McIntyre, LA Knight, Cody Rhodes, whatever, Kurt Angle. It has nothing. Sometimes it's. And it's not a bad thing for WWE. I'm not gonna sit here and complain. Sometimes they just don't need you at that moment. They don't want you right now. It's like there's no way around it. That's it. If they don't want to tell my story right now, I'll go tell it somewhere else. There's nothing wrong with that. And if they want me to tell my story at a different time, then maybe I'll consider it. Maybe I won't. But the thing is it's a business, and if they don't want to use my story, if it's not marketable to them, then it's not what they want right now. That's okay. I like you said, I wouldn't have been there, and I wouldn't have been there for 4 years, much less if I wasn't good at anything at my job. So I'm not, excuse me. I don't feel the need to, I guess, defend myself. I find myself like stopping myself from saying things from time to time, but I'm like, you know what? They don't know me. I don't know them. Like, there's no point in giving them that satisfaction. At the end of the day, I'm going to continue doing what I want to do. I'm going to continue wrestling. I'm going to continue being a star anywhere that I'm given a fair opportunity. And if I'm given an actual opportunity, then, that's what I said this at the beginning, and I'll say it again. It's a very exciting time for any company that views me as a free agent, because I'm going to be a very valuable asset wherever I go. And this is not to say it with an ego. This is just to be, a friend of mine told me you can stop being humble sometime. And I'm, I realize that I'm talented, and I realize that any company that decides to pick me up will be a very, very lucky one,
Oh, that's awesome, man. And, best of luck to you on that. And I say this to everyone when they're on here. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show.
Absolutely.
You could have been doing a million different other things, but you chose to sit here. You got my thanks on that. You're always more than welcome to come back anytime you ever want. We could talk more about music, or we could dive deep in like random video game stuff. Like, I am a huge nerd. Outside of wrestling stuff, I am a huge nerd. If you could have been made fun of it for like in the 80s or 90s, that was me all over. So, we could talk shop on that all day, but anything, like any socials, anything you got planning on or coming up, by all means, the floor is yours to share with the world.
Thank you so much. And thank you both for having me on here. I would love to come back. I would love for you guys to have me back and talk shop about whatever. So I appreciate that. As far as social medias, I have Instagram, Twitter or X, TikTok, and Twitch. They're all Core Kid Javi, CoreKidJavi. You can DM me there if you want to book me, or use my booking email, thejavibooking@gmail.com. That's TheJavibooking @gmail.com. I am officially open for booking for July and onward. I will be traveling this month. Just last week I was in New York. I'm looking at my paper calendar right now. Next week I will be in Minnesota. The following week I will be in North Carolina and then Connecticut. And that's, I think that takes the end of the month here. So I'll be all over the place. But book me. I want to be everywhere and anywhere. I want to be an asset anywhere, and I am just excited to represent those who aren't represented everywhere I go. So
that is awesome, Mike. By all means, feel free to share your stuff too, man. I don't want you feeling like you can't say nothing.
No, you're good. I was just like, I'm vibing. I was just
oh, I know.
Like the Bruce Lee link. I was just being watered.
I get that, man. It's just like I said, I try to be fair with everyone. If you're, I get a co-host. I don't want you feeling like you can't get your plugs in. Also, by all means, feel free to share your stuff.
Obviously, like all my socials, it's right there on the screen. It's Paperclip Mike. It's X. Facebook, when I tried to do it, but Facebook, when you have a Facebook page that's been dead for 10 years and then you try to bring it back again, it's not Instagram, TikTok, obviously Twitch. I actually, the Evolve review, I think that's where you and I had started to talk there a little bit, was the Evolve review. I'm a few weeks behind. I got to catch up. I'm about 3 episodes behind. I needed, like, real life has been a pain right now. Twitch, I'm a big MMO guy, so I do Elder Scrolls Online. I dress like a chef and collect recipes. It's a whole thing. I actually have...
Your fellow chef. All right.
Yeah, no, I actually have, because, battle chefs don't have swords and axes because that just doesn't make sense. I have a pizza paddle.
That is awesome.
And I wear a chef hat and a chef jacket while I stream Elden Scrolls because... I'm looking at a spreadsheet because, when you do content, you have 800 tabs open.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine that made there's 570 food and drink recipes in the game. The goal is to collect all 570. I am at, as of this second, 30.
Oh, well, you have a long road ahead of you.
And then, yeah,
so... need some coffee. This is going to take a while.
Yeah, no, but it's a lot of fun. Like, I dress like a chef, and then it's like, and I do all the thing. It's a whole thing. I started doing Neverwinter again. It's an MMO that, if you guys like Dungeons and Dragons, it's literally in the Dungeons and Dragons universe. It's free to play.
I got to check that out. What's the name of it again?
Neverwinter.
Okay.
It's free to play. Like, you don't like Elder Scrolls. You have to buy the game and then it's free to play.
Sure.
Neverwinter is straight up free. Like, cosmetics,
free to download.
Crates. Yeah, free to download. And actually, starting tonight, me and a couple of friends of mine are going to start doing like a weekly trios running through the game.
Oh, fun.
And then I'm an MMO guy, like, so that's what I do. And then I'm going to add, because of course, you know what I'm talking about. Of course, why not add more things when you already have a plate full? DC Universe Online is an MMO. So it's a free to play one too. You can either...
I've heard of it. It's weird. I'm not a big superhero guy, but I think I have heard of that. Ironically,
yeah, like you can actually it's the same tutorial mission, but you can either be a good guy or a bad guy. You choose, and like you can get. I think it's Batman, Superman, and
Flash.
Wonder Woman can be like your mentor.
Yeah.
But if
Batman,
you're a bad guy,
Superman,
it's the Joker, Lex Luthor, and I want to say Tiger because of Wonder Woman thing, but it's like you can play as either a good guy or a bad guy, and like you go through the same stories and stuff. But it's like, oh, I'm fighting Robin now, but if I'm a good guy, I'm fighting like Parasite. Like it goes. Some of the bad guys are deep cuts because it's not everybody knows who Parasite is. But so yeah, I do. I'm going to be doing like a couple days a week on each one.
Wow.
And then I still even more on stuff I want to plan because work 30 hours a week and then do this for 2. Like I'm trying to get some other stuff written and podcasting stuff done. So yeah,
everywhere.
Yeah, basically, if I'm at work, I'm sitting right here at my desk. So, because who needs sleep, right? I get like 4 hours of sleep a night.
Ah, well.
Yeah, that's what they make the white monsters for, right?
Exactly. That's what they make energy drinks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because when I do get free time myself, I'm dipping into Helldivers too, and I've been all about that. And aside from that, like I said, I'm a Warhammer nerd. I've been getting more into the Warhammer lore, and I just finished up a second run through on Space Marines 2.
Oh wow.
So yeah, now I'm just patiently waiting for Space Marines 3. So
it's funny. I'm the worst nerd ever. Because like I'm not into like superheroes. I tried and I wasn't. But I like a lot of the horror games. It's like horror games are where I go. So like Amnesia is one of my favorite games of all time. There was like a third or fourth one. I don't remember which one it was that I didn't like because it was too sci-fi for me. I like it when it's just horror. Amnesia is my favorite. Me and my wife will play the Backrooms a lot. What did I play recently? I played something on stream yesterday. It's called Who's at the Door. I'm bigger with horror games. Me and Joe last year on stream did Alan Wake 2.
Nice.
Yeah, we did a playthrough and it took us like about a month to get through it because we would do it a couple hours at a time. It's a big game. But it was really fun to play. So yeah, that's where I dip my toes in with like the horror video game stuff. Aside from like whenever I play like Fortnite or whatever, dumb modern game.
No build.
Yeah, no build. That's crazy.
My nephew,
I can't build. I tried it when it first came out. Like
my son got me to do Fortnite with him, and when he got me to do it with him, that was before they started making no build, and he hated playing with me because I could never make something, so I was just always on the front line when I'm like, no, I'll cover, you shoot. I'll shoot, you work on making a house or whatever. And then once they made no build, I was just like, oh, yes, dude, we're playing no build. And now,
I started playing Fortnite when you had to pay for it, though. I was playing Fortnite like when it was a PvE.
Oh, it was like the zombie games, right?
When they did the versus the world story.
Yeah, which it's actually still there. Somehow it's still there. Like I'm surprised they still do stuff for it. But I tried it like early on, like long before there was IPs in Fortnite. I was like, oh, that guy looks like Star-Lord. Oh, he looks like John Wick. And now I actually have the John Wick skin.
I remember.
I got the John Wick. I got the Mandalorian. I got a couple different.
I have Sabrina Carpenter.
I have the one that I have most recently that I got was I have Jake the dog, but then I also have I have Jigsaw. Nice. That was the one that I made sure to get. I was like, Jigsaw is like my favorite movie.
Yeah, my son is official. My son's mad at me because for whatever reason they took his Bender skin out of his locker, but I still have mine. He doesn't know why, and I don't know why either. But he was like, "No, my Bender skin's not there."
That's bizarre.
Like, yeah, but I still have my Bender.
But the funny thing was, it's like, oh, it's build. There's build. I'm like, yeah, I ain't kind of like that's too much. Like I'd rather just shoot. And then I was like, oh, they have no build. I'm like, okay, I'll try no build. And then I literally won the first 3 games I played in Fortnite at no build. I literally got first 3 games in a row.
It's where it's where the boys become men in no build.
Oh,
I tell you what, if we ever play, you can build and I will cover.
All right, I'll take that load. I'll take that load.
Okay, that's fair then. All right, so with that said, thank you again for so much. For taking the time to come on, man. I do appreciate it.
Yes, thank you guys for having me. I'd love to come back.
Most definitely.